We're waiting on. Haley? How are y'all doing? Is the press ready? Philip, Rebecca? Let's see. All we're missing is Bruce. Where's Bruce? Where's Bruce? You'll come stand next to Michelle? How about that? All right. Y'all all ready? All right. All right. Well, good morning and Happy New Year. You know, as governor, I promised that we would do things differently. We know this state has faced systemic challenges for decades. We've spoke about them. To fix these problems, you have to change the culture of how you do business. And only through changing the culture and then bending the mindset of the people that work in state government can you achieve great things for the citizens of the state. We promised that we would make a government as great as the people of Louisiana. And one of the biggest challenges of the last four governors have been the fiscal affairs of the state. Each of those prior governors, whether it would be Foster or Blanco or Jindal or John Bell, have all been confronted with major fiscal instability throughout their term. Now, whether the solution was cuts that threatened healthcare, higher education, or even canceling LSU football, they never seemed to find a solution. And this has left a bad taste in the mouth of our citizens. I came in with the mindset that we were going to fix that. Our state government should be required to live within its means, just like you all are required to live within your family's budget. Government is designed to serve the people, not the other way around it. The money that we spend in this capital belongs to you. So we have a fiduciary duty to protect the people's hard-earned money. Now, I was not always in elected office. I've been a regular citizen as well, someone who has both earned a paycheck and signed a paycheck. I ran a small business. I paid federal and state taxes, and I get it. And I've been just as frustrated with the way that government spends our money from day one, and I've worked to fix it. I don't know if you remember way back when I was in Congress. One of the first things I did, as usual, was to cause a bit of a stir, where I declined some of the congressional special benefits. They didn't even know what to do with me. They said that I couldn't decline my health care. They said that I couldn't opt out of the congressional retirement. We just don't have a way to do that, Mr. Landry, they told me. But I forced them to do it, paving a new way. I led another effort, organizing members of Congress and encouraging them to be fiscally minded in their own budgets, in the budgets that we received. I said to those members, I said, let's see if we can create efficiencies in our budgets and save some money. And in 2011, me and many of those members, some of whom have gone on to do great things, returned nearly $1.5 million back to the state treasury. Again, they didn't know what to do with it. Then Speaker Boehner told us they didn't have a way to turn the money back over to the treasury. We said, we don't care. Here's the money. You have to figure out what to do with it. But we showed them that we could do it. Because you see, I don't believe in just talking about the problems. I work to solve them. Then again, as your Attorney General, I started a fiscal responsibility program because we were in the middle of a huge fiscal cliff. And I asked one of those folks who is standing next to me, Mr. Steve Orlando, to run that fiscal responsibility program over at the Attorney General's office. And we looked at everything. And we saved hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars by streamlining processes, canceling vendor contracts that we didn't need, doing simple things like consolidating the number of printers in our office. Then as governor, right on January 25th, not long after taking office, I issued a directive, an executive order to each of my cabinet secretaries to begin to identify savings. And they did. And the results are literally amazing. Our first budget cut spending rather than increased it. It would have been just as easy to keep the bloated COVID spending money, but instead we proposed spending over $3 billion less. You see, because past budgets have been falsely propped up by one-time spending, or what they call in this building non-reoccurring spending, mostly derived from disasters or COVID federal spending. Our second budget proposal was flat as well, basically holding the line of spending to the prior year. That's right. So while other states increased their spending, we cut back even in the face of massive inflation. Many of those departments ate those increased costs, and we flat funded the government. Just like the citizens of this state, our government has had to live under Biden-era inflation. When you go to the grocery store or the hardware store and pay those prices, which went up under then President Joe Biden, our state government must pay those increased prices as well. But despite that Biden inflation, we didn't increase taxes to increase spending. We created efficiencies. More importantly, we not only did not increase taxes, we, myself and the legislature, delivered to the people of this state the largest tax cut ever in the history of this state. And we're not done. I'm standing here to reiterate that my long-term goal is to eliminate the income tax in this state once and for all. And we can eliminate it all while doing the great things that we've been doing, like fighting crime, building on some of the best educational wins and improvements in the nation, and continuing to attract world-class companies that are driving massive economic development and job opportunities that we're seeing in this state. And yes, we can continue to fix our roads and our bridges and improve government. And I believe we can still do it and cut taxes. Why? Because we've done it, and we're doing that, and we'll continue to do it. Today is part of an overall effort about doing those things differently, building a government as good as our people, as I said earlier, not just making things better in Louisiana, but making them great. That's why we created a fiscal responsibility program at the end of 2004. And today I'm here to also announce those findings. Our goal, our effort was to look at all of the cabinet departments and then narrow in on areas where we could do things better, where we could seek efficiencies and find savings. So today, I'm also announcing to the people of Louisiana that we have found hundreds of millions of dollars in savings within Louisiana state government. These include savings for both the federal taxpayer, within the federal government programs that we administer here at the state level, that also create savings on the state side as well, and also tens of millions of dollars in actual state taxpayer dollars inside of the state budget. This has been an unbelievably tremendous effort involving many, many people across the entire state government, including the help and assistance of even the legislative auditor, Mike Wagasback, who's here today. We work together as a team from the legislature to the governor's office and then all of our cabinet secretaries. They did an unbelievable job. They responded. We set a course, and they said, let's go. Lower and flat budgets despite the Biden inflation, tax cuts and not tax increases, with a continued drive towards helping us eliminate the income tax. The savings and efficiencies in state government with better services and hundreds of millions of dollars of savings in our federal programs as well. This is the dawn of a new state government, and we're not done yet. With that, I would like to recognize some of the people who are up here, starting with my fiscal responsibility, Steve Orlando, who will come up in a minute, but we have Bruce Greenstein, our Secretary of Health. We have Angel Davis, who has worked with Steve in the legislative office on our fiscal responsibility program. It was great to have her come in and have a point person. As I said, Mike Wagaspak. We have our great speaker, Philip de Villiers, who will continue to remind you of all of the things that both he and many legislators over their terms have tried to get done in this Capitol. And in the last 24 months, we were able to do that. And then, of course, we've got Rebecca Harris, who's our new DCSF director. And then our Commissioner of Administration, Taylor Barra. And what's unique about that is Taylor has an opportunity to bring it from a perspective of being a former speaker and having to deal with the budget as well. These folks and those members of the legislature who are part of this DOGE effort did an unbelievable job, and I want to thank them. And with that, I would like to bring up to the podium Steve Orlando. Steve.
Good morning. A year ago, Governor Landry tasked me with finding waste, cutting fat, and making government more efficient for taxpayers. We built a strong team. We worked with the legislative auditor and challenged cabinet secretaries to scrutinize their budgets that under previous administrations had not been scrutinized for years. Through difficult, persistent work, we identified hundreds of millions in savings without cutting services. In fact, we've added services. This is real money that helps our state live within its means. Coming from a business background, if you waste money, you don't stay in business. If you don't measure results, you fail. I brought the same mindset here. We set targets, tracked outcomes. We held ourselves accountable and provided results. This success is only because of the leadership of Governor Landry and people like Philip de Villiers, our speaker. But we did build a great team with people like Angel Davis, Evelina Broussard, I think she's here today, and many others who through their hard work proved that government can be smart, disciplined, and respectful of taxpayer funds. Finally, I want to thank our partners in the Legislative Auditor's Office, Mike Wagaspak, Chris McGee, that work really hard with us, Jennifer Shea, she's not here today, she's with the Legislative Auditor's Office, and many others, especially with our buddy Taylor with the Division of Administration for his dedications as well. Now I'm going to turn it over to Mike Wagaspak for some more remarks. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Steve. It's my pleasure to be here. This is a shining moment for the Auditor's Office. I can't thank my team of trusted advisors enough. Chris, who's head of our data analytics. This project would not have been achieved without the severe work that data analytics compiled. It's an amazing team of trusted advisors, and we're here. I mean, we're all on the same side, and I can't thank the leadership, Speaker de Villiers and President Cameron Henry, for allowing us to partner and do this project on behalf of the DOGE effort. It's been a long time coming that finally we have a governor that's dusting off these audit reports. We're freshening up the numbers, and they're implementing. He's holding his cabinet accountable to implement these changes, to address the findings, and push forward those recommendations. This is real significant dollars. Too many times I've been in meetings in this building where we're making recommendations and we're pushing back either legislatively or whatnot, And I hear this common thing, well, auditor, why are you so concerned about federal dollars? It's federal money. Why do you care how it's spent? Well, when I write that check on April 15th, I can tell you I wish the federal government spent a lot less money. So I think all of us here are taxpayers, and this is taxpayer money, whether it's federal or state. We need to run government like a business and being as efficient as we can. So I can't thank the governor enough to really push this effort forward. I hope it's here to stay, because this will always be a work in progress for our office. Again, we just appreciate the fact that somebody's picking up our reports and saying, you know what, this is a good idea. Let's see what we can do to implement this change and finding and ultimately result in efficiencies and taxpayer savings. So can't thank you enough, Governor. Angel?
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Thank you so much. So the governor challenged the Fiscal Responsibility Office to continue his commitment to the people, which he began in U.S. Congress as Attorney General, and he has continued as governor. And that challenge was to eliminate wasteful spending, improve government services and government efficiency, and modernize government. Over the last year, we have partnered closely with legislative leadership, the speakers here, and we have partnered closely with the Louisiana Legislative Auditor and his team. Chris and I become work colleagues. We have partnered with the Commissioner of Administration and his team. But most importantly, we have partnered with the cabinet, and they have made amazing changes to the efficiency of state government, to reduce spending, and to modernize state government. And we couldn't have done it without this collaborative partnership. It's been amazing. As a result of working with our partners and the governor's cabinet, we will achieve almost $1 billion in annual cost savings and efficiencies. That's savings across only 17 departments. That's just the governor's cabinet. We have done so without any reduction in services. This long overdue effort benefits state taxpayers, and as the governor said, federal taxpayers, because we are both, most of us in this room, and allows us to have a more efficient government focused on the services to the citizens. These efficiencies and savings allow the administration to deal with needed improvements, the continued effects of inflation, a continued push towards economic growth, and continued the largest tax cut in state history. Key components of federal savings included improving Medicaid eligibility checks. Secretary Greenstein's going to talk a little bit more about that. But I mean, just think about it. If you're deceased, incarcerated, no longer eligible for Medicaid, if you no longer live in the state, you shouldn't be on the Medicaid rolls. This is a perfect example of a legislative auditor's report that we took off the shelf. We brought forth, we worked with our cabinet, we worked with the secretary and his team, and we implemented those changes, creating hundreds of millions of dollars in savings from just the Medicaid program. These other additional efficiencies in the federal arena included SNAP eligibility. And that's another program that Secretary is going to talk a little bit more about. But it's just looking at eligibility. So we work very closely with OMV. Thank you, our partner back there. We work very closely with SAVE on citizenship. And this has allowed Louisiana to unenrolled, ineligible SNAP participants. The governor's also challenged us to find ways to improve services at no additional cost. And we have done so. And a very good example of this, and our Secretary Harris is going to talk about it in a few minutes, is taking workers from desk jobs and putting them on the front line to help benefit our children who are in the care of the state. And the Secretary is going to talk. It's an amazing, amazing improvement in services to our citizens. Through this unprecedented partnership with the legislative leadership, with the legislative auditor, the Commissioner of Administration, and with the governor's cabinet, we have achieved not only significant cost savings with no reduction in services, but also a fundamental shift in how we provide citizens with improved government services. Our work has just begun.
There's a lot of. I'm sorry, we're really good questions. I'm not asking questions. a lot of you people's media. You might want to explain why you're a fiscal expert, like your background.
Oh, you do that for me. Come on, you know my background. Yeah. So I previously served as Commissioner of Administration under a administration many years ago. So thank you. I appreciate you. Now I'm going to turn it over to Secretary Greenstein.
Thank you. Hey, I'm Bruce Greenstein. I'm the Secretary of Health right now. Good morning, everyone.
You need to explain your background too.
You got me. I actually, many years ago, was also the Secretary of Health for an administration many years ago. Let me just start out by thanking the governor and Commissioner Barra and the whole LA Doge team for their leadership and commitment to fiscal responsibility and putting together such a strong team to take an honest look at how we deploy taxpayer dollars in Louisiana. At the Louisiana Department of Health, fiscal responsibility is at the core of who we are and everything we do. We manage public dollars wisely, we strengthen trust, protect programs, and that ensures that help will be there for people that truly need it. Over the past year, LDH has worked diligently to modernize systems, strengthen data sharing, and close gaps that have allowed waste and outdated information to remain for far too long. This work is about ensuring that our programs are accurate, up to date, and most importantly, sustainable for the long term. Through a series of initiatives, including residency verification, deceased beneficiary identification, incarceration recoupment, and outdated that individuals' information that have insurance coverage, LDH identified more than $104 million in estimated savings. This includes over $15 million in state funds that can be to improve health outcomes and strengthen services across Louisiana. Through initiatives in the SNAP program, LDH has implemented multiple initiatives to prevent fraud, waste, and abuse. And while these initiatives may not directly result in claims or fraudulent receipt of assistance, they do maintain program integrity and up-to-date case information. These efforts include temporary pay initiatives aimed at reducing the payment error rate across SNAP, adding Equifax feeds to provide real-time income and household information, collaboration between Medicaid and SNAP eligibility workers, initial planning for one-door Medicaid and SNAP eligibility integration, and initial planning for one-door single eligibility system with the unified Medicaid and SNAP call center. While SNAP is federally funded, cost savings to date from these case closures are over $2 million. These initiatives will further strengthen program integrity while preserving access for those that truly need it. At the end of the day, fiscal responsibility is more than savings. It's about sustainability. It's about Louisiana's healthcare system remaining strong, accountable, and worthy of the public's trust. We want Louisiana to thrive, and we believe that when we pair compassion with accountability, and it can deliver better results for everyone. And as everyone's been talking, I've been thinking about what's the analogy. And it's, since we're the Department of Health, it's like going for your annual physical. You go to the doctor's office, you think you've done a great job and you're running your body and your health very well. But when the results come back, it usually says you still can do more. You can try harder and you can do better. And this past year, this experience has been a little bit like going to the doctor's office, quite a bit of scrutiny, but it has bore very positive results for the department, for the people of Louisiana, and the people that we serve. And I'm very proud to be a part of it. Thank you. Now, my good friend and colleague, Rebecca Harris.
Good morning. Rebecca Harris, Secretary for the Department of Children and Family Services. Again, I thank the governor and the LaDoge team for their leadership and their support and efforts for our department. I will say when we started, there was a little skepticism from others about whether or not you could talk about child welfare and government efficiency in the same conversation. And we're very happy to stand here today and tell you that you absolutely can. And when you do, with intention, the result is not fewer services, but it's better services for the children and families that we serve. Families are served more reliably, and public dollars are used more responsibly. Our focus with LaDoge has been simple. When someone reaches out because a child may be in danger, the system must respond with clarity, professionalism, and care. That means being present when families need us and not just during traditional business hours. We implemented a second shift in Child Protective Services staffed by more than 50 newly hired and trained investigators that ensured coverage into the weekends, evenings, and holidays. So during the long holiday that we just had, the shift ensured that reports were assessed and that safety decisions were made for children without delay. It also means giving our workforce the ability to do their jobs well and in sufficient numbers. By adding our staff back to the front lines where we come into contact with children and families, we were able to reduce the average caseloads by 17%. That translates to more meaningful engagement with families and better informed decisions for children. At the front door of our system, we improved access. The average speed to answer at the child abuse hotline has dropped by 81%. When a mandated reporter, a neighbor, or a concerned relative calls us, they reach someone who is trained, who is ready to listen, and who can act. Behind the scenes, we aligned our hiring and training so that new staff move directly into learning and practice. Training time has been reduced by a third. That allows us to strengthen capacity while eliminating waste and delay. This is what efficiency looks like in child welfare. It is not shortcuts, it is not reduced care, but it is systems that work when families need them, staff who are supported to do the right work, and a department that treats every report with the seriousness that it deserves. We have more work to do at DCFS, and we will keep moving forward. I am deeply grateful to every member of the DCFS team who has worked diligently within their individual positions to find efficiencies and excellence, because at our department, we believe children can't wait. Commissioner Taylor Barra.
Thank you, Secretary Harris. And to these two departments that you heard from today, both LDH and Children and Family Services, I'll give you a snapshot of what their days look like. I think you kind of have an idea what that looks like. Through this process, which was not an extended period of time, I will compliment all of our secretaries, because if it was not the team at the legislative auditor or not anyone from the division, they were still delivering services in very busy departments. These are two of our biggest, and still accomplishing the evaluation we were asking them to do on efficiency. Congratulations to these two. They did some remarkable work. I'll single out OMV. If you drive a vehicle, what we are doing with technology investment in OMV is going to change your experience. Not tomorrow, let me warn you on that, it's coming, but it is a significant investment that this exercise allows us to invest in. And I know that's the burning question, is how does this affect the budget and where does it fit in the budget? And I will tell you this, when we arrived in 24, as the governor mentioned, record inflation. We got here on January 9th, and I had to present a budget on January 20th. So when he said we're going to do a standstill budget, I said, thank you, because in 2 weeks, I don't know anything else we can do. But we went through that budget, and with the compliments of his executive order that came shortly after, when we moved into the next year's budget, we went into it with a great deal of savings that we were able to present a second year of a standstill budget. And I will do a third year next Friday on a standstill budget as well. That's where you're starting to see the savings. What we were able to take out of the 25 budget as a part of the executive order carried into investments, and some more investment that we were able to do in the 26 budget. We are going to reduce some items in the 27 budget as a result of this activity, and we will still be able to make the investments and keep our budget standstill without a layoff, without a cut in service. I think that is the part that the message should be widespread, and I appreciate the agencies for participating in that. One of the things I told my staff at the end of the day, I have the pleasure of sitting in with the treasurer every 6 to 8 months as our rating agencies want to talk about the financial health of Louisiana. We started that first one in 24. We've done several of them with the rating agencies. since 24, if we don't think this message is getting heard, and this is the Wall Street guys grilling you with questions about the financial health of the state, 3 rating upgrades, if you will, that allow us to borrow money when we need to do roads and bridges and all those things we do in state government. Those rating agencies recognizing what we're doing in our financial health, some of our savings account balances higher than we've ever had, they're recognizing it. And those rating agency improvements allow our interest rates to go down when we do need to borrow money, which we do on a regular basis. Another part of savings that we don't get to explain to the public very often, but a significant one. And for all 3 agencies at some point in time to improve our ratings is huge. And that's where I don't think our agencies get enough credit for the work that they do. Congratulations to the team, Angel, Steve. Steve is a volunteer. I need to mention that. One person who is a dear family friend, Kay Fontenot, who was an integral part of this team, another volunteer. Thanks for a lot of her hard work. Talked to her at 9 o'clock at night many times. But to the team, I needed to reiterate where it shows up in the budget and where it shows up to the folks on Wall Street who do watch what we do every day. Thank you for that, and thank you for this team for a great deal of hard work. And of course, leadership of the governor, who I think I give the podium back to here.
Actually, I want to give Philip, yeah, why don't you, I'll give you a minute. Well, I guess, good morning. I guess I'm feeling a little emotional this morning on a few different levels. I guess the first is I didn't know I was going to be speaking today. But, sometimes when you look back and you reflect on what we've been through in this building, especially for me over the last 11 years, I've heard things like efficiencies, savings, and better outcomes, better services, and things of that nature. And I was visiting with a friend of mine the other day, and I was asking questions to this individual, and I kind of led by, look, I'm not asking you these questions to come across as being an abrasive person. I'm asking you because I'm genuinely curious to know what the answers are. And whenever our governor started laying out a plan 2 years ago on where he felt we could go in the state of Louisiana, I was very concerned that we could get all of these things done, and I would say one term. And I'll look back over the last 24 months and see all of the wonderful things that we've done with his leadership, working with the legislature, and it's really incredible. And then when he drops the idea of having a government efficiency group come in and really try to get into the inner workings of state government and try to figure out where we can find savings, it was really a head scratcher, because most people that know what it's like to be in this building, it's really hard to go through the inner workings of all the departments and figure out where we can find savings in contracts and in duplicate services and things of that nature. And then he introduced me to Steve Orlando. And Steve, if you don't know him, he is a ball of energy. And he said, Philip, I promise you, if you let me work with the legislative auditor, we're going to find savings and we're going to implement them. And I reached out to Mike, our auditor, and he was all in, just bought in 100%. And, it made me kind of do a little bit of research on the auditor's job. And if you look through what the auditors has done for many, many years, they do great work. But I feel like we've fallen short on the legislative side of taking those findings and making sure we implement the proper savings. So it was really exciting to see Steve and Mike work together to come up with some solutions. And I think we started off with the Department of Health, and it was very eye-opening. And I was encouraged. And then I get the phone call from Steve saying, Philip, we need to talk again about a different department. And that's where I feel like my emotions are coming in this morning. Because oftentimes people write about things that politicians say. But I can tell you, for 11 years, I've heard the cries of parents, of caregivers, and sometimes even of children. Because we had an agency that has not been able to provide the necessary services to children. And when Steve said, Philip, this agency that I want to talk to you about is probably not going to provide you $1, but it's going to provide you a value that is really immeasurable. So I just want you to understand that whenever they started talking about the moves for DCSF, it was something that really changed my thought on how we can do things differently in Louisiana. And I'll tell you, I know this is a press conference, and we're going to be looking at poking holes in a lot of the things that have been said in front of us today. But this is an incredible time in Louisiana, and we're just 2 years in. We have a lot of departments to look through. Look, every day I'm on the phone with higher ed. I'm really looking through and trying to figure out where we're going with those departments. We just have a lot of good things going on in our state. And again, I'm extremely proud and thankful for the leadership of our governor, our legislature, and those who have came forth to put forth efforts to try to be a part of the great changes we're seeing in our state. So thank you all for being here today, and thank you for allowing me to say a few words, Governor.
Thank you, Philip. The word that he was searching for was skeptical, I think. Look, I want to thank the cabinet. Really and truly, one of the things that I've appreciated is the continual collegiality of our cabinet. They work together, they call each other, they talk to each other, they respect each other, and they work to make the state as a whole better. Again, I want to thank Bruce and Rebecca, what Philip has said, the remarkable work that we're doing over at DCSF. I mean, how many times have the reporters in this room unfortunately had to write articles about the failures over at DCSF? I mean, I remember as Attorney General. But what's amazing is that you'd write the articles, you'd tug at the heartstrings, and yet nothing was getting done, right? The legislature would come in, they'd probably be the cabinet officials, we'd try to change some laws, because we never looked at the overall organizational structure of the department and said, hey, does that work? And I think that that's what Steve and Angel and their team have been able to do. You know, and I've been around government for quite some time, and a lot of people talk about rooting out fraud, waste, and abuse in our federal welfare programs. The numbers that are in that report are absolutely staggering. They're staggering. The amount we have removed more people off of the Medicaid rolls and the SNAP benefit rolls who are ineligible for that. What that means is that those people are greedy people who are taking from the needy people. Every dollar that they take stretches the ability of those programs to take care of the people that need those services the most. And think about what those savings have resulted in. When Washington was and continues to be dysfunctional at the congressional level, and they can't budget, and they shut the government down, and at the onset of the Thanksgiving season, right in November, when we didn't know if we could get people, especially the elderly, the disabled, and our children, food, we had the ability to draw on those resources without touching our savings. That's a responsible government. Every dollar we save, every permanent process we put in place ensures that those services only get stronger. And so while our fiscal responsibility program is complete, our goal and our efforts towards improving our government and continuing to seek efficiencies is not. In fact, we're just getting started, because I want to make real welfare reform permanent, not like they do in Minnesota. So today, I'm announcing that we will be reforming the current office of Inspector General to take on a new and an expansive role as a reformed office that also focuses on optimization and efficiencies within state government. And the way this came about The way this came about was something that Angel told me during this process that Mike actually hit on. Auditors and their staff have consistently drawn up reports that then get put on a shelf and collect dust and do nothing for the taxpayers of the state because nobody picks them up. Nobody picks it up and says, oh, how can we do better? They actually give you a blueprint. They give the executive departments blueprints on the ways that they can create efficiencies and savings and strengthen the programs that they serve. And so I said to myself, well, wow. When you think about the Inspector General's office, it's a little bit duplicative. Like that's what the legislative auditor does. It's in making sure that we're spending the money properly and according to the legislative will, because they're the ones that appropriate the money. But no one goes in and says, are you spending it wisely and efficiently? Are you optimizing that money? Are you using technology? I mean, look, think about OMV. How many, I mean, we have been, right now, you get your driver's license and your car registration on a system that was designed in the early 1970s when many people in this room were not even born, except maybe Steve and Mike, right? I'm sorry, Mike, and myself. And so we're going to need the legislature to help us, because some of the vision that I see in retooling or reform or transitioning the Inspector General's office is going to take legislative approval. And so in conjunction with that goal, I'm announcing the appointment of Angel Davis to lead what is currently the Inspector General's office and what will become the new Inspector General's office connected to optimization and efficiency within state government. Angel will be my official appointment as our state's new Inspector General for the current open 6-year term. As we work through reform legislation, the reform that legislation needed, and we should add to her title, not only Inspector General, but Chief Integrity Officer as well. Because we're not going to stop finding efficiencies and improving the services that we provide to our citizens in the state. And it's only through reforming those, it's only through continuing to change the culture that we can lower the tax burden on our citizens, and they deserve it. And when you do that, and every time you lower that burden, every time you clean up those tax policies, what do you see? Record historic investment. It's 2026. We're just getting ready to get started on some of the great announcements we're going to have this year as well. We are going to, I'm telling you, we're going to have $100 billion of investment in the state before 2026 is over. That has never, ever, not even close, have we had $100 billion of investment in a 36-month period. So again, I'm hoping that she, along with Mike and them and our great cabinet, will help us to continue the goal of finally eliminating the income tax, of protecting services so that those who need it the most get it, and those that seem to want to cheat the system are kicked off the system. And that will help us make Louisiana a great state to live, work, and play. And we are going to be the greatest state in the South. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any of the great questions that y'all are about to give me. Wait, let's see something. Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I can clarify what you're saying about the Inspector General's office. Is it going to require legislation to do what you want to do? And what does the Inspector General's office do now that you don't think they would be doing moving forward?
Well, look, it really is a great question. It's not so much of what the Inspector General's office is doing now. That's a bad thing. The question is somebody else doing the same work as the Inspector General? And when you look at it, the legislative auditor's function is very similar to the Inspector General's office. The Inspector General, no doubt, kind of goes through and looks at the cabinet level. The legislative auditor has a broader particular reach. but I believe that if we want to continue down the path of what you have in your hand, of creating those efficiencies, of ensuring that we permanently change the culture and bend the mindset and the way we do business in the state, we need a department and office that focuses on that, that takes the reports from the legislative auditor, and instead of letting them garner dust, actually picks them up and says, how can we do better? Like, and the great thing is, I was looking around, I'm like, we can do that without doing what many government officials have a tendency to do, which is to create a whole new bureaucracy. We get to do it within the confines of the current bureaucratic structure. So
Respectfully, I mean, I think people think of the Office of the Inspector General and the Legislative Auditor as a check on what's going on in government, but Mr. Wagasback, I believe, serves at the pleasure of the legislature, and the Inspector General has a term that doesn't line up with the governor's term on purpose. So I wonder if I'm going to ask a question. I think there'll be some concerns about maybe changing the role of an organization or an agency, that's considered to be a watchdog on the state government. Well, how would you respond to that?
you want to answer? Yeah.
So when the Inspector General's office was created in the Constitution, the thought was that that would be the arm more function as an internal auditor of the executive branch. So what I see happening now is it going back to that original intent where she may take her reports and findings and actually go to that executive agency and say, hey, how do we fix this? How do we implement this? You know, whether it's an investigative audit or financial audit finding, that I think is the better function, in my opinion, of the Inspector General. Kind of getting back to that original role was to be that internal audit arm of the executive branch. Or if they uncover problems or want to report something, the Inspector General can take a look at it and or refer it to our office for review. So that's kind of how I see it going forward. We really need somebody at the executive branch to follow up on these recommendations and findings that we report in these different audits. That would help.
Well, yeah, and let me just say this too. This is important. Irrespective, the Inspector General reports to the governor. Doesn't matter whether they get a 6-year term that overlaps it or not. They report to the governor, whether it's the governor that appoints them or the governor that they fall under. Okay? A great example. Great example. Mike Inham's office has consistently said the Office of Motor Vehicles and the Department of Health should work together to be able to verify the eligibility of Medicaid participants. Nobody did that. That report stayed on the shelf. 600 million, how much? Well, hundreds of millions of dollars in 2 years. Just think how many hundreds of millions of dollars we could have saved if somebody would have taken it off of the shelf a long time ago. And this was simply just getting OMV to work, Bruce, to work with Brian. That's not terrible. It can't be that hard. But we did it. It goes to show you that sometimes the structure is outdated and needs to be changed. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, Governor, just hoping you can elaborate on the audit to action pipeline, because the legislature could be looking on all that. How is it exactly being codified quicker?
Well, I mean, again, look, I think that what we're going to propose to the legislature, of course, we have to work with a legislator to file a bill, right? And I think that it will be heartwarming to many legislators to be able to finally have a officer in the executive department that's going to take information from the auditor and go try to find efficiencies in state government. And so, you know, I really don't see a whole lot of pushback. I mean, if you don't like to save money, if you like to waste money, if you like people who don't need services to get those services, if you want to endanger those services, if you don't like helping children, yeah, maybe you don't want to reform it. But we'll see. We'll see what the votes are. Yeah.
Here's the office took a look at all at the state credit card program, the card program.
Yes, we did, and we're currently still looking at it. And if you have any information for me, I would love to talk to you about that.
Okay.
That'd be great.
I have one more question. Right? right? I'm curious if the office might have a role in potentially seeking out local inefficiencies within local subdivisions.
Now, yeah, look, that's going to be a job of the legislature. That's a question for them. I think that right now we've got plenty. I think that one of the first things I'd like to, if we can get this done, is have Angel focus on our boards and commissions and office of and in our higher educational institutions. Certainly, local government can see what we're doing and what we're trying to create are best practices. And they have the ability to create those efficiencies inside of local government as well. It's a great question. And we'll just have to see. Elise?
Governor, I do have to ask.
Sure.
I do have to ask. I know a lot of people are really interested in this. I understand you're going to Washington and you're going to discuss Greenland. I'm wondering who you're meeting with and what kind of discussions you're going to have. What are those discussions going to entail?
Look, today is all about the great work that our cabinet and the great people standing here next to me did to save the taxpayers of Louisiana hundreds of millions of dollars without threatening any services. Where we have literally just through an efficiency program strengthened the protection of our children. And so what I would say is that I will confirm to you, I will be headed to DC. And some of the meetings that we're going to be having is about how we bring culinary diplomacy and great opportunities for Louisianians in Greenland as well, and Greenlanders in Louisiana and the country as well. And I'm sure that when I'm done with those meetings, we will put that information out on our social media and make sure that we get y'all any of those questions answered. But today, this is just a great day. I mean, it's unbelievable. It really is. It just sets the tone on what the next legislative session is going to be. Thank you so very much. Okay.
I just quickly looked up a little bit of really basic information. It does seem like the office already has pretty broad power to undertake criminal investigations and just look at the complaints generally about state agencies. I'm just curious if you could shed more light on, in addition to those functions, what exactly?
Well, the question is, do they need those functions? They don't have original criminal jurisdiction anyhow. The legislative auditor does those things as well. They provide reports, and if they believe that there's criminal conduct, they send those reports to the district attorney and the attorney general. I don't know. Look, over the years, we've built a lot of police powers in our departments. Everybody seems to want to carry a badge and a gun. Maybe they do, maybe they need it, maybe they don't. It's a great debate that we'll have. At the legislature, whether we need that power or not. I am focused on optimization and efficiency. One of these questions about this watchdog. Wow, we had some great, and I'm not criticizing the Inspector General's office or any of that office, but really, if the structure was so good, why did it take us to now to find the savings that we found? Right? Doesn't mean that somebody failed. Maybe no one had the leadership skills until we came along to actually say, hey, we're going to do things differently. Okay? And so, look, let's just give it some time. Let's have a great, healthy debate in the legislature. Let's see a way. I don't think anyone is going to not like creating ways under which this state can income tax. I mean, I just don't know it. You know what I mean? And so that's what the goal is. The goal is that because and guess what? Think about this. We have been able to restrain the growth of government 3 solid years in a row. That's a pretty big task. And we're doing it without using non-reoccurring measures for reoccurring expenses. That is something this group, I would have thought, to ask, Governor, this is great. This means that we don't have to report on how government is using non-reoccurring revenue to support reoccurring expenditures. That's what y'all criticize Bobby Jindal and John Bell. Like, y'all used to criticize governors for doing this. We're actually fixing this for future governors. I mean, to me, that's the great story, right? Because that's what we've done in the budget. Is that not correct? I mean, am I wrong? And so again, this is so great. This is a great way to start 2026. And I do appreciate it. Thank you all so much for your time. Have a great day.